prefer not to comment on politics, but you know the political aspects of what the Prime Minister talked about in his speech, this attack on him over legacy. What does it seem like to you, sir? You know, India would very much love to know what a military man thinks of this.
Shiv, firstly, I have to say that Prime Minister's speech today, on this very special occasion,
yes,
when we are celebrating Platinum Jubilee of our independence, was more towards the citizens and not to the politicians. I don't know why we are, laying so much of emphasis on what politicians think. We know that these opposing parties will say what they have to say, but I felt that today's speech he was addressing the citizens of India, the whole nation he may have hinted a few points toward the end, but the kind of points that he made. Second thing that I felt was that today he came across not only a politician, but he also came across as a reformist. Of course, that has been his theme earlier also, but once again, his emphasis on youth, his emphasis on women, and the manner in which he addressed all those issues, I thought there was a reformist in him as a personality. And the third thing I want to again emphasize, I think those five, you may call them political issues, I would call them national issues that
the life force,
mentioned. Whether they were Viksit Bharat or getting rid of colonialism thought, or being proud of our virasat, Ekta and Jurta, Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, and lastly, the most important point, the duties of our citizens. I thought those are very, very important points and very appropriate point when we are thinking of 25 years ahead. Prime Minister did not miss out what we have to do and how we have to do in the next 25 years. And there he went into the kind of advancement that we require, whether it is scientific culture or it is, digitization. Those are the modern requirements, and he mentioned all those also, including Atmanirbharta. Of course, his style, the way it is something remarkable. Talking about Atmanirbharta and bringing in suddenly the new guns that we have produced after a very, very long time. The artillery guns.
Important,
I thought let us emphasize on his address towards the citizen, the kind of topics that he has raised and the manner in which he has raised. Those are more important than getting involved in this political tutu.
I agree. I agree with you.
Always say they will always sort of oppose each other, and I think we have got used to it. In fact, we have got tired of it also, frankly.
I hear you, sir. I hear you and I empathize with your view on that. The point is, since we are a democracy, the Congress is the biggest opposition party. One cannot ignore what someone like a Sonia Gandhi is saying, especially since it's her first comment after the speech by the Prime Minister. General Meston, you wanted to weigh in on that? Legacy wars becoming the first thing that the opposition has reacted to after this speech.
Shiv, my take on this is as follows. Firstly, when we achieved independence, at what cost? We have to learn after 75 years what was the cost we paid. And the cost was paid that we suffered so many human lives, but the biggest problem was that the British Raj, they just focused on democracy, but foundation of democracy was communalism. That was the entire problem, and therefore they were sowing the roots of discord between the then Congress party and so-called Muslim League, who had not won a single assembly election. And why I know this is because when I was in Afghanistan, I picked up a book which is banned in Pakistan, written by Wali Khan, Facts are Facts, which states very clearly the research has been done of 1922 to 1942 of original documents which have been declassified by UK, placed at the London India Office Library. And when I read that, I could see this was their they wanted to preserve their British Empire at the cost of dividing the Indians. And therefore, that teaches us today, and this is what exactly Prime Minister has highlighted, that the future of India lies in unity and integrity. which is the responsibility of all leaders and every citizen. And therefore, that should be the focus. Past is past. We have to learn from that and not repeat the same mistakes of this communalism, of this hatred, of, corruption, and all
Absolutely.
these kind of things. So my take as a military man is, India needs to be united as one. And this is what Pakistan is also trying today, to break India by, playing the so-called religious card.
No,
among some
absolutely.
of
And
our
also, the Prime Minister used the word Gulami multiple times in today's speech. So, in order to break away from that past, one has to break those shackles of Gulami as well. There's an irony and a paradox also in that, isn't there, Rajdeep?
That's the trap which Rahul Srivastav mentioned that the opposition falls into. You see, Mr. Modi gives the big picture. He's the Prime Minister of the country. He's talking directly to the citizens. And then when you sort of resort to a political attack on him within minutes of his speech, then you are accused of political partisanship. Let's be fair to the Prime Minister. I didn't see in this speech the familiar political partisanship that Mr. Modi in the past has been accused of. If you look at even the range of freedom fighters that he mentioned, I don't think you can really quibble about it. I think this was a speech that was aimed, Shiv, at an aspirational, inspirational India for the next 25 years.
Yes.
So he wasn't actually weighed down by what was happening in the present as much as looking to the future. He is going to make the odd political jab. He's a politician at the end of the day. But I appreciate what General Malik said. I think this was a speech more directed at citizens than it was at fellow netas. So when the Congress then immediately responds and says democracy is under threat, or says Nehru hasn't been given his due by the Prime Minister, you're falling into precisely the trap that the Prime Minister will use, or the BJP will use against you tomorrow, saying you are a party obsessed with Parivarvad.
Yes.
I think Jawaharlal Nehru deserves better. He's been a true nation builder. And yes, there have been occasions, Shiv, where I think, like the Karnataka government ad yesterday, more due could be given to Mr. Nehru. But today, on this occasion, based on the Prime Minister's speech, to suggest that there was a slight to Nehru, I didn't see that in this
Because he
speech
mentioned
at all.
Nehru as well.
Well, you see, he did. And this is, we are now in 2022. As I said, this was a speech looking less at the past and more at the future.
Yeah.